So if you've watched my Nostalgia Critic videos, you might have noticed that I have a couple jokes about Pepe Le Pew being canceled. Actually, it's more than a couple, it's quite a few, and I've never made a video just straight up talking about it. I've always kind of had in the back of my brain one day to do it, but I didn't really want to because I wanted to see where it was going to go, because this stems from a couple years ago when Space Jam 2 came out. They said they were no longer going to do anything with the Pepe Le Pew character.
No, please, mon chéri, do not erase me. The void, she is cold and dark and...
But I wanted to see where sort of the atmosphere and the environment was going with this character, and I just saw a stand-up by Gabriel Iglesias. Please don't get the wrong idea. I love this guy. I think he's very, very funny, and he actually has a very funny routine about cancel culture in this stand-up, but he brings up how they were trying to cancel Speedy Gonzalez, who he currently does the voice for, and also how they try to cancel Pepe Le Pew. And he was saying that he kind of agrees with canceling Pepe Le Pew because he's a little grab happy and everything. And please, again, do not get the wrong idea. I am not at all saying he's wrong and we should stop him from saying... No, he's a very funny guy, mad talented, it's a funny special. I just have a disagreement. And my thought was, if it's in his stand-up special, I think the overall atmosphere is that this was a good thing, that it was good that Pepe got canceled, and I think people are ready to kind of close the book on it and be like, yeah, you know, just a different time and everything, but it's good that we changed this. I'm here to open that book up and say, nope, there's an important chapter you are not noticing right now. Because here's the thing, I get why people would think this, especially people who grew up with the cartoons but are grown up now, because just in recent memory, you're thinking just the idea, the initial idea, well, yeah, this female cat gets a white stripe on her back, and Pepe Le Pew sees her and just immediately goes grab happy for her. I mean, just think of that imagery, you think, well, yeah, that's not good, but here's the thing, you're seeing these cartoons, you're seeing that imagery, you're not watching them. And I think if you actually sit down and watch these cartoons, you wouldn't necessarily think that, but because everybody thinking back to this are grown up and they only have memories of these cartoons, they're not gonna go back and watch these because, goddamn, who would do that? We're adults. We go and do adult stuff now, grown-up things. We have jobs. We have so many things to worry about. This goddamn loser loves watching these cartoons and knows a lot about them, man. I'm a big fan of Looney Tunes. I've grown up with the cartoons. I know, like, names of the directors and writers and background artists and stuff, so I'm a huge, huge fan. And I did like Pepe Le Pew. But here's the thing I think people are really missing about this character that I don't hear a ton of people talking about. Nobody wants to be Pepe. That's why Pepe is so funny. He's a cautionary tale about what not to do, and I feel like if you actually sit down, watch these cartoons, you will see that. You will see that it's actually very much satirizing the overconfidence that couples, particularly men, can have in a relationship. I could be totally wrong here, but I just have not heard about this big pandemic of kids and or adults acting out what Pepe Le Pew does because Pepe Le Pew did it. I can't ever think of a kid or a grown-up or anyone saying, yeah, I did this because I saw it in a Pepe Le Pew cartoon. No, because they make it very clear you are not supposed to do this because Pepe is the loser. He's like Johnny Bravo, which I guess they're also trying to get canceled. Nobody wants to be like him because he's not good at what he does. He's overly confident. How do the majority of Pepe Le Pew cartoons start off? It starts off with him walking through a town and everybody gets a smell of him and they just run away. They try to get as far away from him as possible. That is usually the introduction of the character. Why would anyone want to be that? Why would anyone look at this character and say, oh yeah, that's the dude I want to be. I want to stink. I want everyone running away from me. No, nobody would want that. But what makes the situation funny is that outside of that, he's a perfectly, fun, charming character. He has the French accent. He's super, super optimistic, but he's very much in denial. He's delusional. He has this one huge flaw that he stinks. And that's where a lot of the comedy and commentary comes from. You may think you're hot shit, but in reality you might stink like hot shit. You can't be too overly confident. You have to listen to the other person. And Pepe doesn't do that. He thinks he is. He's totally under the delusion that he has this amazing romance with this cat, but majority of the time she's trying to get away from him just because he stinks. And you could be like, well, why doesn't she tell him that? But a lot of times he just smells so bad that she just needs to get away. Like, she literally can't breathe. Again, adding to the comedy. Also, the character usually doesn't talk, but you still got these two opposites that are trying to achieve completely different things. They're simplifying and exaggerating it, which is always a great contradiction in cartoons. They'll simplify some things, but they'll exaggerate others. And it's all for comedy. It's all to hold up this funhouse mirror of us and say, isn't it funny how we act this way? Pepe, like I said, is a cautionary tale because I think people can look at him and say, don't be like that. But at the same time, we do see a little bit of ourselves in there. We see that overconfidence. We see being totally delusional. How many guys have you seen that say, oh yeah, she wants me, she's totally into me? And it's like, no, she's not. It's very clear she's not. And sometimes I remember some friends would point at some guy that was trying to like hit on women and not do a very good job. And they say, look at Pepe Le Pew over there. They would laugh at him. Pepe Le Pew is an insult. He's supposed to be someone to laugh at, but at the same time, we do see a little bit of sympathy for him because you know he wants love. And he's going about the wrong way of doing it. Then every time she runs away, he's convinced himself, oh, she's doing it because she wants to be pursued. She wants to be chased. And back then, the cliche was always it was man pursuing a woman. And nowadays, there's a lot of different varieties. There are people that just pursue each other. There's people that like to be pursued or ones that like to pursue and so forth. And you just mix it up until you find those two that finally meet and make sense and they match kind of thing. But back then, that was the stereotype that it was always a woman would drop something in these old cartoons and the man would pick up whatever it is. Again, a very subtle way of saying, pursue me, come over here, that kind of stuff. And in the day, it's seen as romantic. Some people still see it as romantic. It's part of the silly games that we as people play. And those games have evolved and they've changed over time. Pepe Le Pew cartoons are very much showing, isn't it funny how out of control it can get, how mixed the signals can get. And he always thinks she's just playing, to the point where he actually does find out in one episode what Pew means, what his name means, and why people keep saying Pew around him.
I must find out what this Pew means. It means no. C'est true. Pepe, you are a Pew.
He's horrified. In fact, he actually tries to change for her.
For her, I will make myself dainty.
Beginning this episode, the cat is actually going after him and he's going after her. They think they found love until, you know, she gets a whiff of him. And she's actually trying to help him in this episode. She's trying to spray perfume on him and he tries to find a way to get rid of the stench. But then again, because it's a comedy, it's a cartoon, something happens to her where she now stinks and he gets a taste of his own medicine. The best endings always have him getting a taste of his own medicine.
Oh no. Control yourself, madame. You cannot be in earnest. Madame, control yourself. Your conduct is unseemly.
And he's of course thinking to himself, how can she not see this? How can she not read the signals that I'm running away? And it's great. It's hilarious. It's really, really funny. And anyone watching it can tell we're not supposed to be like these characters. If we ever are like these characters, it's not good. And this is showing, isn't that ridiculous how we do these similar patterns? And we really shouldn't. We should be smarter than this, but this cartoon is really reflecting it back to us pretty well.
Why is it that whenever a man is captured by a woman, all he wishes to do is get away?
And it goes without saying, yes, this isn't everybody. Everybody has different ways of dating and courting and saying hi to someone and greeting someone. We're all different. There's nothing wrong with that. But everybody who really watches these cartoons recognizes this, has seen this in the real world before. Be alert, don't be like Pepe, don't be delusional. This is like getting rid of the story of the boy who cried wolf because he's setting a bad example. He's lying. He's telling people there's a wolf and there isn't one. And people saying, well, that's a terrible example. Get rid of that. And they're not looking at the actual context of the story. They're not looking at how they end. It ends with the boy inevitably getting eaten by the wolf. And the idea is don't be like the boy. Don't be like the boy who cried wolf. And that is what these cartoons are doing as well. They're trying to make it very clear you are not supposed to be like Pepe. You can find him charming the same way you can like Daffy Duck. He's doing a whole bunch of bad stuff as well, but you find him funny. Again, because you recognize the flaws in that character, maybe in yourself, maybe in other people, maybe just in humanity, but it's there, and that's why these cartoons are so good. And my fear is that if we do this with a character like Pepe, we're gonna do it with other types of cartoons that are exaggerating things that are clearly meant to be shown just as exaggerations and not taken literally. The best example is just any type of violence in a cartoon. How many times we've seen a cartoon character get out a gun or explosives or hammers or knives or swords or whatever. That is one of the most common things in all cartoons, and we accept it because it's exaggerations. It's not supposed to be taken literally. But if we're gonna get rid of Pepe Le Pew and say, well, no, we're afraid people are gonna act like this, why are we letting all these cartoons where characters are constantly solving their problems, shooting and blowing up other characters, be allowed? And please, please, do not get me wrong. I'm not saying we should get rid of violent cartoons either or anything like that. I'm saying the same way you tell a kid, well, you don't do that. You don't actually go and hit someone in real life to solve a conflict. The same way I think you can tell someone this is not how you act when you like someone. But with that said, what boy likes a girl at that age watching Pepe Le Pew? If you're introduced to Pepe Le Pew and you're a little boy, you usually don't like girls. You think they have cooties and all that stuff. So that's why I think it's strange that there was such a pushback on this character, because I've just never heard of any kids acting out Pepe Le Pew and wanting to be like him. Because again, I feel like they make it very clear you don't want to be like him and nobody would want to be like him. Now, on that note, not gonna act like there aren't some scenes I don't tuck my collar at a little bit. There's two in particular that stand out to me that I can defend, I can explain it, but I can see why someone would say, yeah, maybe I don't want my kid seeing that. One of them is anytime Pepe sees the cat and he goes and locks the door immediately. Now there's two ways you can look at it. One is that he's locking the door so that no one will interrupt them, or again, he's locking the door because he's thinking, oh, she just wants to play getaway in. Haha, I got the advantage, I'll play along, because that's always the thing. He thinks he's playing along.
Shouldn't we be introduced first? I am shy, but I am playing it too cool, no?
But then there's also another one that I'm sure has made the rounds where he literally ends the episode with her like chained to a couch.
But now we are inseparable. Are we not, darling?
Hear me out. I can defend it, or at the very least, try to harken back to what the original intent, what I think the original intent was. Again, Pepe is super delusional. He's convinced himself he's this great romantic, nobody can resist him, and it's pushing that delusion to the farthest that can be pushed. A good example I can give you is the Simpsons episode where Homer just got this new job and everyone around him knows that Marge is pregnant and they keep congratulating him, but he's confusing it for getting this new job. And at one point, somebody just says,
"Way to get Marge pregnant."
This is getting very abstract, but thank you. I do enjoy working at the bowling alley.
That is taking the delusion as far as it can go, to a comical point. And I think that's what this is trying to do, where he's trying to say to himself, oh, well, she plays these games so long, well, I'm done playing, so let's do this. And that, I think, is the intent of that. However, I'm not gonna act like I can't see why somebody would be like, I don't want my kid watching that. Even though I still stand by the original intent was a satirical, innocent intent, I don't think it's imagery that really holds up that great. And here's the thing, if I can look at that and say, I know the intent, but it makes me feel a little uncomfortable too, I'm sure there's people that can just look at a Pepe Le Pew cartoon, even if they watch it from beginning to end, and say, this is making me feel uncomfortable. And I do get that. I can understand why some people would say, I'm not really enjoying this that much. I don't think it's putting me in the right comfortable mood where I feel like I can laugh at this cartoon. And you don't watch it, which is fine. I totally get that. But when you're trying to say the cartoons are doing something that they're legit not doing, I think that gets in the way of not only the intent of the cartoon, but the enjoyment of some really good satire and some really good commentary. I feel like these are cartoons that men can watch and say, this is what you want to avoid. I think it's doing the opposite of what people are accusing it of, but they're doing it in such a funny, satirical way, and a way that does have a lot of charm for the character that's making these mistakes, that's doing its job too well. People are thinking that this is the hero and we're supposed to do the same things he does. But the same way we don't look at Daffy Duck and say he's the hero, let's do everything he does, but we still like him, we like watching him, we like seeing him fail, we can also connect to Pepe here. So okay, that's my 2 cents about Pepe Le Pew. Couple years later after they got rid of him. But again, I just sort of felt the overall environment was saying this is all right. Well, he was a bad character, really bad, and people shouldn't watch him. They're going to do terrible things because of it. And I just don't think that's the case. I think if you actually watch the cartoons and pay attention to the commentary, you can see it's very much trying to say do not do the things that this character is doing. And they're doing it in a funny, charming way. And yes, with some imagery that probably doesn't always hold up the best, and I can see clipping out some of it for modern days or altering it or whatever. I do get it, because there are cartoons that just don't hold up, times do change and everything, but I really think they're missing the original idea and the cleverness of these cartoons. Now, with all that said, I'm not saying I'm 100% right. I'm giving my opinion on this, because here's the thing. I didn't grow up a woman. I didn't grow up with, guys hitting on me all the time and, whatever, trying to say I'm not interested in them still hitting on me. I haven't grown up in that world, so I totally leave it open for conversation here, for people to come in and say, does this make sense? Is this something where you look at and say, man, this is smart because it does show the absurdity and the comedy of romantic couples, particularly on the male side of how ridiculous they can be and too full of themselves they can be and not listening and all that stuff? Or do you feel like, no, there is something else here that really is causing problems, and maybe you have seen problems that have legit come from this? I personally haven't. I've never heard somebody say they're inspired to do wrong because of Pepe Le Pew. Again, I'm not doing this at all to point at you and say, idiot, I'm not a Fox News, Twitter, you're wrong, I'm right kind of guy. I like keeping it open for conversations. So if you have grown up with the Pepe Le Pew cartoons, or maybe you still watch them now, because like I said, I do think there's some great comedy in them, let me know your thoughts. If you agree with me, if you half agree with me, if you totally disagree with me, let me know what you think about this. If you think Pepe should be dead and buried, or if you think we're overlooking some really funny satire and commentary, I'd love to know your thoughts. That's about it, and I'll see you next time. Take care.